You're listening to Wycombe Sound, online, on Radio Player, and on 106.6 FM.
Welcome to the penultimate edition of the Wycombe Wanderers Show from High Wycombe and from the Woburn Green branch.
A very good evening from the Woburn Green branch. Welcome along to the penultimate Wycombe Wanderers Show.
It's exciting, isn't it?
It is, yes.
I think exciting is the word.
No, I think it's very exciting. Will we score 14 goals on Saturday? That's always exciting, isn't it?
It's not impossible.
Well, not quite. I mean, I don't know whether any team has ever done it, ever. I think there was some slightly strange Spanish score in a European Championship once where they needed to win something like 13-0 against a very small team, and they did.
Oh, okay. So it's not unprecedented.
But I think the suggestion was it was a bit like West Germany against Austria in 1982 in the World Cup.
Very similar to that.
Yes, yeah.
Nice to be speaking to you, though, off the back of back-to-back home wins, which is very exciting.
It is, isn't it? I mean, and just what a win it was on Saturday against Bournemouth. You know, Bournemouth, who definitely very much have aspirations to be back in the Premier League, and were the side who, when we played them earlier on at Dean Court, still Dean Court to me, had £99 million worth of talent on display against us, and we managed to beat them on Saturday.
It's very, very good news. Also, still to come this week, we'll hear a fantastic chat that Bob did with Chairman Rob Couhig, and also we'll hear from Alan Phillips, who captained the side against Middlesbrough in the 1975 FA Cup third-round ties.
Which was an absolutely huge deal, wasn't it? Because Middlesbrough were top of the First Division at the time. And
led by Jack Charlton and the likes of Graham Souness playing in their ranks.
Yes, which definitely makes you think that the team must have sort of had a definition of being quite dour, really. The fact that Jack Charlton and Graham Souness in the same side, you know, you couldn't call them flamboyant, I don't expect.
I imagine the team talks were quite fruity at half-time as well.
Yes, goodness me, you wouldn't want to be in that dressing room when you've made a mistake, would you?
So, Bournemouth, you were at the game on Saturday.
I was indeed, yes, and fantastic it was. What a brilliant start from Uchi, obviously, after 4 minutes, scoring an absolutely brilliant goal. And I think he can feel a little bit robbed, to be honest, in the goal of the season competition, of which spoilers coming up now, he finished third in, but he was a late entrant because it was such a good goal. And I do feel that possibly he might have won had he scored it sort of earlier on, and wasn't a late entrant, as it were. But yeah, super goal after 4 minutes. And you sort of expected that Bournemouth would come back at us, and yes, very much they did, but we very much did, hold firm. And really, I never particularly felt very, very worried that the result was in doubt. I mean, possibly, they could have got an equaliser, but Wycombe always looked in control of the game. That was the thing.
And it must have been a strange position to be in, because, if Derby had won, then it didn't really matter either way what happened. But, you want, obviously, your team to finish strongly, and to, especially last home game of the season, and especially against the opposition that they were playing.
Yeah, I mean, what's fascinating, or what was fascinating on Saturday, was as well how seriously everybody was taking it, even though we all knew that, it was going to take a miracle still to keep Wycombe up. The atmosphere definitely dropped, because of course Derby took the lead. And people were then sort of like, as then Swansea came back into the game, everyone was getting quite excited when suddenly it was sort of, somebody was saying, Swansea have equalised, and a whisper went round the press area. And then when they took the lead as well, it really did feel a little bit like you were sort of witnessing us maybe surviving on the last day. It had those sort of vibes about it, even though clearly that wasn't the case. And actually, once you then did the maths at the end of the game, you were thinking, okay, is it 13? Is it 14? Whatever. It's a lot of goals now, and we have to win, because Derby and Sheffield Wednesday are playing each other. So it's not as if we could have sort of like met the goal difference in the middle with them losing, say, 6-0 and us winning 7-0.
No, and Gareth spoke to Bob after the game. We'll hear from Uchi in a few moments' time as well.
It's going to take till the final whistle of the final day to determine where Wycombe Wanderers are, and I am so proud of that. I don't want the boys looking at the table looking at an R or Wycombe highlighted in red. No, there's other teams who've had that so far, and a lot of them would have thought we'd be the first to go. I'm really proud of what we've achieved this year, and believe me, we have achieved. There's no disappointment at all for me this year. 40 points in the Championship. It's just brilliant for this club, who half the lads have played in League 2 with me, never mind the Championship. It's brilliant for them, and we'll be back and we'll be better for it.
Fantastic goal from Uchi today.
Unbelievable. He's a man who all he needs is a bit of belief. You put belief in that man and he will deliver for you, and he wants to deliver, he wants to learn. He's just a brilliant guy to have around the place. He smiles every day, he's so happy, he cares so much, and as long as I've got players like that in the building, we've got a chance.
There was quite a lively warm-up session going on, or a warm-down session, I think is actually the term, in case you were wondering what the noise was.
I was going to say, it sounds like there's another game going on.
Indeed, absolutely. Yeah, it was a little bit like that. Anyway, afterwards we also spoke to Uchi as well, and he was asked whether or not he'd ever taken part in a game where a team had won 14-0.
Wow, the only time I've won at that score's on FIFA, so, and I think I was just playing against myself. So, we go into the game, we try our best, that's all we can do.
It is very, very unlikely, but you're a team who doesn't give up, do you?
We don't, we fight right to the end. Like I said, special shout out to Anthony Stewart, I'll scream it to the rooftops. That block just epitomises what we were about, right to the end, not giving in. So yeah, that won us the game. Not my goal, that won us the game. That just sums up, and he's been good this season,
How would you rate your first season at Wanderers then?
How would I rate my first season? Like I said, it's been a time of healing for me, on and off the pitch, This club has helped me a lot mentally and also physically as well. I have good people around me, so it's been amazing. It's been amazing in terms of, not for myself, but in the team as well. I've learned a lot, and I'm grateful for the opportunity, like I said.
And what's it like playing under a manager like that?
Yeah, I'm so glad to play under him. He is a top manager, he's a top person, and he's always liked me as a player, and he has been great for me, and he's helped me a lot. I'm so grateful for him, honestly. He's the best manager I've worked under.
The manager's already plotting for next season. You've virtually intimated you're going to come back up next season. How do you feel as a player when you played like that and you're going to the last game of the season?
Oh, it's good because we know what this team's about, but we take every game as it comes. We know what we can do. We don't look too ahead. We've got another game on Saturday.
Of course.
So we're just building, that's it.
Yeah. You personally have been brilliant since you came in the team and prove you can make it at this level. If someone came in for you championship-wise in the summer, would that be a tough decision given how well this club has treated you?
I can't answer that. You're looking for a nibble, aren't you?
Nibble?
No, listen, I'm a Wycombe Wanderers player as far as I'm concerned, and I'll continue to work for this club, and I appreciate the opportunity they've given me and continue to give me, so I'm just focused on Wycombe Wanderers.
Do you ever doubt the chances of this club and the fight of this club? Was there a part in the season when you literally wrote it off yourself?
No, it wasn't. I have faith in God, and I believe that anything's possible, and I never doubted what this team's about. The way they went up, I remember watching it. There's something special, there's something different about this club, and you have to be in it to actually understand that. I can't put my hand on it, but there's something different about this club.
So just going to ask you, your mindset when you go in, you've got one game left. There's everything to play for, on a personal level, on a team level, everything. What's your mindset going into this game?
My mindset that Uche goes into every game. My mindset is working hard for the team and doing my best, and I'm sure that's how it is with the rest of the lads. We're all on the same path and the same wavelength, so it's about going into the game and giving our best, and whatever happens, like I said.
Uchi, that celebration today, that was something as well as the goal.
That's kind of my signature celebration, the silencer. I got happy, I got excited, so I said to myself, that when I score today, I'm going to do that celebration, because I haven't done it this season, because most of the time when I've scored, we haven't won.
I thought you were going to go and jump into the manager's arms, but you stood there screaming. What was that? Excuse my ignorance. What are you done a silencer?
Yeah, it's LeBron James silencers. When he shoots in basketball, he does that move. And I thought I wasn't going to go and run to the gaffer because the boys have been giving me a lot of stick about that.
Excuse my ignorance.
What is a silencer? Yeah, ask LeBron James, he'll be able to tell you. I can understand the point though, because it was strange, because Uchi did run all the way over and stopped about sort of like 2 yards from Gareth Ainsworth, and I think everybody thought, oh, he's going to hug the manager or at least give him a high five or something. The fact that then he didn't, it did look slightly strange what he was doing.
Awkward.
So yeah, it was slightly as awkward as the situation can be when actually you're celebrating a fantastic goal.
We'll hear more from the manager, Gareth Ainsworth, still to come before the end of the show, looking ahead to the final game of the season. And as mentioned, we'll hear from Chairman Rob Couhig and Alan Phillips as well. But first...
I thought there was going to be a little fanfare.
Yeah, there should have been, shouldn't there?
Oh, dear. Producer Luke, we'd slightly rehearsed.
Or a drum roll or something.
Yes, okay. I can do the drum roll. That all sounds a bit naff.
Me hitting the desk, yeah. But first...
Yes, we have the results then of the player awards, which were announced this afternoon. Now, of course, normally this is quite an exciting ceremony that fans turn up at and whatever, but obviously because of the current situation, it was all done behind closed doors this afternoon with Chairman Rob Couhig presenting some of the awards. And so here we go. Here is the list. First of all, the Chairman's Choice, which is decided by Rob Couhig alone, went to Darius Charles for his fantastic contributions on and off the pitch in the face of injury and adversity during his time with the club so far, which I thought was very nice. The Young Player of the Year, which is decided by the coaching staff, was, no great surprise, Anis Mehmeti. Who looks a little bit fed up in the picture. And I wonder why that is. The picture that they've got on the club website, a couple of them are actually holding trophies, and then the others are just sort of standing there. And I do wonder almost if it's like that sort of thing at school where a couple of people got sort of like trophies, and then the others just got book tokens, and they're feeling slightly more hard done by because actually they wanted the trophy.
Or some could have much bigger trophies than others. Some of them.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, so Anis is looking a bit like he's the one who's won the £5 even book token. Okay, the player of the year, obviously voted for by the playing squad. In third place was Joe Jacobson. Second was Ryan Alsop. And the winner was Josh Knight. Congratulations to Josh. The Worldwide Wanderers Player of the Year, voted for by the international members. Joint second was Josh Knight and David Stockdale, and the winner was Joe Jacobson. I think it's interesting that the goalkeepers and different goalkeepers have featured in both of those, because as I've been saying all season, I really feel that there almost should be a position of the season award, because David Stockdale and Ryan Alsop would definitely win that. And then we come to the Supporters Player of the year, obviously voted for by the fans online. Third place was Jack Grimmer, second was Uchi, and first was Josh Knight. So very well done and very well deserved, I think, to Josh Knight.
Yeah, very well done to Josh, who did very well, scooping a number of awards there.
Yeah, absolutely. And goal of the season, finally. Of course, Uchi had 3 attempts at winning goal of the season. And so it was quite impressive, really, that Admiral Musgrave managed to sneak the award from him. So Uchi's strike against Bournemouth was in third place. His strike against Brentford was in second. But Admiral's goal against Swansea was voted by the fans as goal of the season.
And there must have been some fantastic moments that you've witnessed as well, which I guess we'll sort of reflect on a bit more next week. But really good to have seen this great season in the Championship.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. It certainly has ended better than it started, shall we say? When we were there's 7 games without so much as a point, you did begin to think, oh goodness me, this is going to be a long old season. And the funny thing is that it's completely not been like that at all. Since the draw against Watford, which was our first point, and which was an incredibly well won point and very, very unexpected, because Watford were flying at the time and obviously are one of the teams that have gone up as one of the promoted teams this season. From then until now, the season has just flown by. You think, where on earth has it gone? And there have been so many highlights, actually. I think it's quite easy to forget that actually, in the middle of all of this, we played Spurs in an FA Cup tie and held them to a 1-1 draw until the 85th minute. And they very much, when Jose Mourinho was still managing them, had to bring on the big guns to ensure that actually they proceeded in the tie. And the fact that isn't the obvious highlight of the season, I think just speaks absolute volumes for how well the team have done this season.
And any game as well, where we've come from behind to win as well, which has been really, really fantastic.
Yes, yeah, definitely. I mean, particularly the win against Huddersfield, that was, again, very, very unexpected because it was away. I don't think we were going into that in the best sort of like vein of form. And you just didn't really see it coming. And so to win that game 3-2 was brilliant.
And was it Bristol City recently, which is very memorable as well? That was a really good one, I think.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Bristol City as well, against Nigel Pearson. And goodness me, as I think we said, if you thought that the Jack Charlton and Graham Souness, experience was a bit dour, goodness me, Nigel Pearson after that game, he really, really did look very, very sour. And no surprise really, because Wycombe completely outplayed Bristol City in the second half and were well worthy of their 2-1 victory.
You don't upset Nigel Pearson.
No, definitely not. No, goodness me, you definitely didn't want to be on that coach.
More reflections next week on the season. We've got a very special show planned, including part 2 of an interview which you haven't heard part 1 of yet, but we'll be hearing from Rob Couhig. Also next week, definitely something to really look forward to, is a bit of a compilation of a lot of the ex-players that we've spoken to and ex-managers as well over the season. Big thank you to Alan Hutchinson and JDT for liaising and helping to arrange those. I had a sneak listen, if that's a thing, to it, and it really brings back brilliant memories. It appears in the order that we did them, by the way.
I'm very impressed.
No, it's very good. It's a great listen and a really nice kind of memento of the players that we've spoken to and some of the memories that they've shared with us as well from different eras.
Yes, and as you say, a big thanks to the Ex-Players Association, because without them we couldn't have, we would have struggled to fill these shows. So thank you very much to them for arranging all of that.
No, it really has been a highlight and a fan favourite. Speaking of which, in a few moments' time, we'll be hearing from Alan Phillips, who captained the side in 1975 in the third round of the FA Cup against
Middlesbrough.
This is Wycombe Sound.
Still to come on this week's edition of the Wycombe Wanderers Show, 34 of 35. Our penultimate show, we'll be hearing from Chairman of Wycombe Wanderers, Rob Couhig, who's been chatting to Bob, his reflections on the season, and it's a two-parter, so you can hear more of it on next week's show. As Bob mentioned, we're very grateful to the Wycombe Wanderers Ex-Players Association for working with us in providing us a fantastic array, if that's the word, of former players of the club. And this week, times to perfection, mainly thanks to JDT, caught up with Alan Phillips, who captained the side against Middlesbrough, who were playing on Saturday, of course, in the third round of the FA Cup in 1975, and started by finding out a bit about how he became a Wanderer.
I've been extremely fortunate to play for Hendon at a time when they had great desires for the league and cup. And it's about the time that Wycombe, Brian Lee and John Reardon, great management setup, had got together at Wycombe. And Wycombe were going through some great periods from late 60s into the 70s. So I almost joined Wycombe at the start of the 70s. But I looked at the team and it was fantastic. I couldn't see myself being able to get into the team. It was so strong. So I remember having discussions with John Reardon and said, well, I really wouldn't be happy at coming and being a reserve with the team. So I really, that's how I ended up playing at Hendon. And the fact that I lived at the time at Twickenham was another major factor. But in 1973, I moved to Henley-on-Thames. That wasn't the major factor for coming to Wycombe. The major factor really was it looked like John Delaney had left in the summer, and it looked like if I did join, I'd have an opportunity of being a regular, which was key, as well as playing for a team that was highly successful, multi-talented players, very strong management team, and a wonderful crowd base. So really, it was a dream to come to Wycombe at the time. And fortunately, the playing experience justified it, thank goodness. So I joined in 74, 75. And I suppose the first experience was that they noted that they hadn't been beaten at home for a long time. I thought, gosh, this is great pressure, but also a superb competitive situation to enter. Luckily, I think we maintained that throughout the season.
So what were your first impressions of being at the club? Because obviously people talk about the slope. That must have taken a bit of getting used to.
I think, the slope was a shock, although I played on some wild pitches in Wales and goodness knows where. So it's, and you really needed to get used to it and get your fitness level used to striding uphill, etc., and down dale. I think just the professionalism of the club, incredibly well run, committee, management, crowds, etc. Everything about it was top notch, I thought, for non-league football. And anyone, as I previously played quite a few times at the ground. I initially played with Tooting and Mitcham and then with Hendon, and it was always a great experience to come and play in front of crowds and really admire the way the crowds were so supportive of their team. So the criteria of coming or not was based on the fact that I thought I would be able to fight my way into the team. And it was you had to compete to get into the team. A strong squad.
I was going to say that must have really impressed you when you arrived as well. That the type of player and the character and obviously the level of football of the people that were there at the time.
Very fit people. Every player was very, very talented. And they had that backbone of John Maskell, Antonio Horseman. But, alongside was just every player was very, very talented. And new players brought in Howard Kennedy, Steve Perrin, Gary Hand was younger. But, I could name all of them. They're absolutely top class in their particular position. And the way in which the training was set up, the light blue against the dark blue tracksuits, engendered a competitive edge in the training sessions, each session. And that was, you had to enjoy that. Otherwise, it would have been very trying.
And we were fortunate enough to have Brian Lee on the show recently. What was he like to play under?
Very, very, very astute. You probably opinionated, but knowledgeable. Amateur football's in more refined Brian Clough, I'd say. He was tremendously knowledgeable, able to set a team up correctly. You knew your positions, very, very aware of what was expected of you. So you could understand how successful he was through the period that he was manager. Incredibly successful manager in that era.
So we ought to talk about the FA Cup. Well, obviously the third round, but did you feel you were getting up some momentum?
The early rounds. Yeah, so individuals. I think in one game, Paul Birdseye scored a tremendous goal. We already had, Tony Horseman and Keith Searle, who were fantastic at attacking players of it. But other players could contribute, and it was hard fought to get through. But once you get through the first round, really, you've really got it's dangling there for you. And the hope for third round tie against a then or now type Premier League team is a fantastic incentive.
But it must have felt so special to be at the third round for the first time in the club's history as well.
Yeah, it's and I think it was fortunate that we had the type of players who could rise to the occasion and do the club proud. And I think amateur players and non-league players, that's what you strive for, is not to make a mess of it when you get the golden opportunity.
What people may not realise as well is that Middlesbrough were joint top of the old First Division at the time as well.
Tremendous team. Graham Souness in midfield for them is, and a whole load of superb players playing for them, and deservedly in their position, with a very good manager in Jack Charlton, who was, in later times with Ireland, he was practical, but they were a very talented team to play against, and on a home tie to begin with on our ground was a dream, really. But we justified it in the away game with only a goal in the dying end of the game. It was a fantastic experience for all concerned, I think.
It must have been so special as well to be the captain of that team in both games.
Yeah, I mean, it was so thankful to be there. I mean, luckily the previous season I played with Hendon at Newcastle, so I suppose once you'd had the experience of going there, there was nothing to lose other than being fearful of not performing to the level that you hoped you could, and in front of a reasonably big crowds, which is what most people want to do. But the experience was tremendous. But there were lots of captains in that team. That's the thing. There were lots of leaders. Everyone was fully. There was no need to motivate people. They were fully motivated.
And to have such a big crowd at Lokes Park as well must have felt excellent.
Fantastic. And before this discussion, I'd looked at the ITV replay of the game and just watching the crowd in the background was amazing. And I remember going out and tossing the coin first of all, and I think I dropped the coin, which the referee wasn't thankfully retrieved it from the earth. And before then, we'd signalled to Jack Smethers, the chairman, who was in the hospital. So we were playing, for the crowd, for him, for everyone concerned. So that was quite an experience to go to the halfway line and wave to him before the game, as we knew he was watching from the hospital bed. So as captain, yes, it was. It's a great experience. But just like anyone else, you're out there. Everyone has their role, and they all knew their role. So it was a pretty easy experience tossing the coin.
And you came so close to scoring yourself as well.
Yeah, very, very fortunate. If only, but you can't if only. The Middlesbrough player put a tremendous challenge in at the same time. So it was great defending by him, really. I thought I got there. But Terry Reid had put a superb free kick in. And if I was a centre-forward, probably I'd have scored. Who knows? It was a tremendous... we almost took them. But it's... that's the luck of the game. You have to take the opportunity when it comes against, I think, top pro teams like Middlesbrough, like Premier League teams. A non-league team really has to do something to score against them. And we came so close.
It must have given you such belief going into the second leg as well, though, having held them at home.
The second leg was a fantastic game. We probably played better to stay in that game, although they probably made more chances. We probably played better to stay in that game for most of the 90 minutes, and just to lose it in the last couple of minutes was. It wasn't satisfying at the time, but I remember at the end of it thinking, if only. But let's now get on and win our league and fulfil the season for the club. And we went on a fantastic run then of wins and draws, or mainly wins, to win the league that season, which made it very, very special.
I was going to say, such an incredible time to be involved in. I guess you probably didn't perhaps even notice at the time, but, even till sort of the 90s, really, that was kind of the highlight of Wycombe's kind of history, really. As I say, to have reached the third round and to play a team like Middlesbrough, managed by Jack Telgen.
You have to be fortunate to be able to give yourselves an opportunity. I mean, I saw Wycombe in one of the Wembley Trophy finals, I think. And I thought they were the players then in the 80s, I think it was 80s, maybe early 90s, were fantastic. So I don't think so much the game has moved on in a sense in particular periods, but you kind of forget the standard of you hoped that you were playing at. And certainly that Wycombe team was a very, very strong team, but probably no stronger than Brian Lee's teams all across that era. It's just that you've got to give yourself the opportunity of being able to play in something like an FA Cup game or amateur cup final or whatever to see if you can meet those expectations.
And are there any other particular kind of moments or games or occasions that really stand out to you during your time at the club?
Well, I think that season we really had to go on a fantastic run to win the league. And I think the final game was amazingly against Enfield, who were tying with us for the league. And I think it ended in a draw, which meant that we won on goal average. And that was a fantastic achievement. Of course, other games would be crucial on the way, but that really was, and that was a big crowd for that game. And I think at the end of the season, we also played a league representative team. And that was a joyous occasion in front of a big crowd. So each of the games, we were undefeated. Wycombe's home record was fantastic over the period. I don't know, Brian Lee would be more aware, but I certainly was conscious of joining a club whose home record of not being beaten was enviable at the time. And we were bitterly disappointed. I'm sure the record was up into the 80s, 88, 80 or 90 games before being beaten, which was pretty incredible for the club.
It must be so satisfying to you as well to kind of watch from afar, if you like, to see the progress the club's made from going to the Football League to, now being in the second tier of English football.
Well, I think it just goes to show that Brian Lee, the management, the committee, John Reardon's with Brian, etc., had an awareness of how to coax the team through the different eras from amateur to some pro to professional. And I raise my hat to the way they continue to develop it. I think Brian has made many jokes about the fact that they probably weren't the best players, but they did seem to get a considerable level of quality of players to join the club. I think this current year has been fantastic. And okay, they might be relegated, but you want a community club. Wycombe can never really be in that top echelon, not with 10,000 crowds or 5,000 crowds. So you've really got to provide a club where you can develop local talent. You provide, as we've just experienced, the ESL sort of experience. You provide the local community with something to go for and people to come and enjoy seeing a football game at their local stadium.
And do you think when Wycombe play Middlesbrough in their last game of the Championship season, that'll really reignite your memories of your time, obviously playing against Middlesbrough as well?
Yes, of course. But I hope that Wycombe beat Middlesbrough this time. I mean, I think they've had a fantastic season. I think more of the opportunity for them to go out on a win. It'd be brilliant. But even so, they've had a great season. Hopefully the club is in super working order for next season, and it continues to be a successful club, but a community club as well.
Oh, it's been a real pleasure to speak to you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Really great to speak to Alan Phillips, and it really has whetted my appetite for the last game now as well.
Oh, well, that's good. And I thought he spoke very, very nicely as well about Wycombe this season. And clearly is fully behind them in their quest to win 14-0 on Saturday. I have been doing, incidentally, a bit more research about what I was saying at the beginning of the show about Spain, and it did honestly happen.
Oh,
so in the Euro 1984 qualifiers, Spain needed to beat Malta and basically overturn a goal difference of 11. So they needed to win by a margin of 11 goals or more to qualify. And the final score from the final qualifying game played on the 21st of December 1983 was Spain 12, Malta won. And it is a game that has always been shrouded in controversy afterwards. It's claimed that possibly the Maltese were paid not to play their best, and to let the Spanish win by a large margin, although nothing has ever been proved. It's rumoured that words were exchanged between the Maltese and Spanish officials and players at half-time. And a few years ago, 2 Maltese players claimed that the Spanish players had been using doping as they had foam in their mouths and could not stop drinking water at half-time. They also say that they believe that the Maltese players were drugged via lemon wedges during half-time. Wouldn't really fancy having a lemon wedge at half-time, would you?
I do enjoy your intro research. It's brilliant. I feel like we just had a history lesson as well. Coming up in a few moments' time, Rob speaks to Bob, or the other way around, here at Wycombe Sound.
This is Wycombe Sound.
It's the penultimate Wycombe Wanderers Show, and still to come, we'll be catching up with manager Gareth Ainsworth, looking ahead to our final game of the season in the Championship, and of the Championship season as well, which kicks off at 12:30 on Saturday. Coming up now, though, I'm very excited to hear myself, because I haven't heard it yet, Bob chatting to Rob Couhig, the Wycombe Wanderers chairman. Sat down with him. This interview will be in 2 parts, so you'll hear part 2 on next week's show. Some really good stuff to come as well about his thoughts on the season, and just some really interesting kind of behind the scenes, if you like, thoughts from Rob Couhig speaking to Bob here at Wycombe Sound.
What are your feelings about this season?
Well, first of all, I sent to Gareth 2 days ago the Ajax score where they won by 13-0, enough to have. So, I mean, if they can do it, why can't we? But having said that, regardless of what happens, I think it has been a hugely successful season. I am not one who is satisfied, however, with what has happened. I take personal responsibility for our failures at the beginning of the season, because I allowed a culture of, wow, look at us, we're in the championship, and there was a sort of looking around at how exciting it was. And I probably should have been harsher about that after all, we're all getting paid to be here, let's be here. And you can go back to that first game, and I know our fans will visit with me on this, when we played Rotherham and we lost in extra time. We sit here today and you realize just how important every game is. If we had gotten those 3 points and they had not, and everything else had played out, we would not be talking about today the need to get 13. There are other times in that first 7-game stretch, and it took getting clobbered a couple of times, I think, for us to really look ourselves in the eye and say, we got one of 2 ways to go. We can man up and approach this thing as professionals and understand we are as good as other people, or we can just kind of shrink away. And I am so proud of Gareth, the staff, and the players. They took it upon themselves, and they did extraordinarily well. You can whine and complain about referees' calls, and Pete and I do this, and he can come up and he can show you 12 points we lost. I've told him, look, there are other teams that, among those that we're competing with, who probably can claim the same or come up with a reasonable argument. Injuries, I think, are what truly disturbed. We brought some really good lads on, and they were confronted with injuries that, red cards that decimated us at the wrong times. I have, as any good fan would, a list of 12 things that we could have avoided, and we would be mid-table minimum. But I take out of this an absolute certainty. This club can compete at the championship level. All those people who told me when I first told them we're going for the championship, oh, this is Little Wycombe, we can't do that, were wrong. And it is my absolute commitment to prove them wrong. And we're going to take every step. Look, in the team that we field next year, we have to make sure if something horrible happens and we don't get 13 and we're back in League One, we don't assume we're just going to come right back up, because after all, look at what we did. We're going to make those strides we need to make sure we are battering it down. We're coming home. And home to me is in the championship.
Fantastic. That, I think for all fans, that's wonderful to hear. What about Gareth? Obviously, there has been some speculation with regards to other teams. Is he the man who you expect to be leading us back to the championship?
Yes. Look, Gareth and I, again, I told you we got to know each other a little bit. We have an understanding. He will tell me if something else comes up that requires him to give it serious consideration. We live in a competitive world. He is a competitor. He deserves to be in the championship, in my estimation. I believe that he can bring us back there, and we will give him. He and I met when I was over here 3 weeks ago, and we went through the list of things that he thought he needed to be able to get back. And I've given them to him. I've told him yes, 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 yes. We're redoing the training grounds to make them championship level. We're redoing his suite of offices and changing rooms to make sure they're championship level here. Well, it's going to take us a while, but we'll get there. So I think he wants to stay, but I am not a fool. If somebody comes that has a huge bucket load of money, a long history in the championship, that would not require devastating his family by moving, that's going to be tough. I think we have made it so attractive for him here. It's hard for those other clubs to figure out what to do to come get him, which is all I can do.
Yeah, of course. And I think we all keep our fingers crossed for that as well. Absolutely. With regards to the fans, obviously season tickets are now back on sale. As far as we know, fingers crossed, they will hopefully be allowed back in August. What would you say to those fans who are currently either yet to renew or are thinking of actually taking a season ticket for next year?
Well, let me start with the fans I most want to thank. Those people who bought tickets for last year. And whether they asked for a refund or not, they put their money up. They didn't bother us. Nobody. And look, our pledge was all during the year. If you need the money, let me know. We'll give it to you. No harm, no foul. We did it. When we started this, before we started this season ticket deal, we did something a little unusual. We kind of actively pushed to make sure everybody knew they had an absolute right to get their money back. And so I want to thank everybody who bought the ticket. Those who took the money back, I understand, and I don't begrudge them for a moment. They are loyal fans. Those who left the money in, terrific. I mean, they allowed us to have the reserve squad or the B squad or whatever we're ultimately going to call it, from which Anis Mehmeti arose. So they had a real role to play. Going forward, I want to say we're at 1,300 season tickets already. Ben Griffith, Neil Peters, Pete Couhig did a fabulous job of putting that together. We're one of the first clubs to offer an in-house subscription plan so that nobody has to write the full ticket. You can do it over 12 months. I think that it allows us to plan. It allows you to plan if you really want to be a fan and can do it. And there's lots of things that will come with the subscription as we go. We're learning how to add to it and make things more attractive. So I would tell them that if they want to see world quality football, if they want to come to one of the most progressive stadiums in the UK, if they want to have great food, drink, and entertainment, and if they want to be a huge part of this community, now's a great time to buy your ticket.
One of the things that you do so well over in America is the tailgate party, which doesn't really sort of happen here. The concept of going to a, as you would say, parking lot at, say, 8 o'clock in the morning before a game kicks off at 1 in the afternoon. Are we going to see that sort of thing here?
Well, yeah, we started it last year with the Chairboys Village, if you remember. We brought in the food trucks. We're making it available for people well in advance. Our goal is to get you here early and keep you late. It does three things. One, it's a great way to spend a Saturday with your family. It's low-key. You get to talk. You get to see your friends. You get to have a couple of beers. You have a hot dog. I always recommend the hot dogs. Or we actually sell vegan burgers, too. So you can have the whole deal, and that's good. You get a chance to get out and socialize, and gosh, we all need to do a bunch of that and have a great time. To me, we're trying to replicate, and we are some distance from this. If you've been to America and you've been to a college football game in the Deep South where I am, 50,000 people will be out at 10 o'clock in the morning for a game that doesn't start until 6 that night. I don't think we're there yet, but we're making it so attractive, more and more people will want to be here.
With regards as well to the stadium and, say, the parking, is there anything that you're planning on doing about that?
Yeah, Neil and Pete have been and Gordon Riley have been meeting with council officials about how we can do better park and rides, how we can bring people in better and park them better, how we can get people out of here better, because that's a pain. I have to tell you this, though. People complain because it takes them an extra 20 minutes. I had joined that frustration, and then I went to see the LSU Tigers play, and I have great seats, and I'm leaving the game, and it took me a half an hour to leave there. Now, admittedly, they had 75,000 people, but it's the same concept. Everybody trying to jam out of that one funnel is always going to be a little tough.
Yeah, of course. Obviously, recently over here, we've had the whole European Super League being talked about. What are your feelings as an owner about that?
I didn't understand it. Operation Big Picture was the original thing that came out. I was a proponent, and I'll be candid as to why. There was going to be a lot of money flowing to the lower leagues. Championship, yes, in which we were a part, but of particular interest was how much money was going to go to the League One, League Two, and below, because to me, that money is vital. I talk about us being in pretty good shape, and we are. But even with us in good shape, it's by a thread. 25% of this club is owned by the fans. I have a fiduciary obligation to them to hold off from doing a cash call if I can, and I honor that. Now, the newest thing, I don't know what the heck took place. I'll be honest. Where you come up with this idea that you're entitled to be in the Super League. I presume that what it was is that they looked at the success of the NFL and they said, if you can limit yourself and you have guaranteed revenues, you can, in effect, create value in your club that does not exist. If you know, by way of example, as they were told, that you're going to get $300 million a year in perpetuity, right away your club becomes worth $5 billion. Right now, they don't know what they're going to get, and I can tell you as a person who's tried to buy them, it's hard to value these clubs. So that made sense to me. The way they went about it was all wrong. And the thing that I have learned from English football, that is, I guess it's football everywhere but the United States, that really makes it unique is relegation and promotion. If you've ever been to watch the Florida Marlins in August, when they are 23 games out of place, it's you and your sister and 2 other people, because nobody cares, because you'll start all over again in exactly the same spot next spring. There's no sense of going down. Here, this past month has been both terrifying and exhilarating. Not just for us, but virtually all up and down the pyramid. It is fantastic. Now, this year, they should have a deal that says if you just came into the championship during a COVID situation, you get to stay no matter what. But they're probably not going to put that in time.
I hope you suggested that.
If you know me, you know I did.
But you're absolutely right. And the Florida Marlins example is such a good one in that here you know that if the fans were allowed in, it would have been absolutely packed for the game against Bournemouth. Absolutely. And what a game they would have seen, huh? Yeah. And what will be good, if you don't mind me putting my salesman hat on now, if they had been we're in a similar situation next year for promotion, when we're trying to get our automatic promotion spot and we're playing somebody, probably Bournemouth or somebody like that, because we'll still be in the championship. But when we're playing for those promotional spots, you'll be able to sit there, watch the game, and then on our big screen, watch what's going on, watch the table change. I found this curious. You would never do this in America. You would never get the standings changing based on a position a third of the way through the game. It's over when it's over. But here, Trevor Stroud showed me this the first time, because we were winning 1-0, and so you get the 3 points in your column, and whoa, look at us. It's wild. Next year, though, you'll be able to see it on the big screen, and Neil will kill me if I didn't say this. We have 110
television screens now in the stadium that did not exist before. There's a huge screen that will be in the Caledonian Suite, outside, everywhere. You will not be able to miss other football games, other attractions.
There are 110 television screens that weren't there before.
You can imagine a lot of Arthur Davies across Wycombe now, sort of like with their head in their hands, thinking, oh, if only I'd known, I would have got rid of all of those televisions.
But what a fantastic chat so far.
Indeed, and still to come next week, part 2 of the Rob Couhig interview. We find out why the Couhigs decided that they wanted to get into football, which is a very interesting tale in itself, and also then actually the various attempts in the various clubs that the Couhigs looked into before they settled on Wycombe Wanderers.
So back to this coming weekend, and as we mentioned, it's the final game of the season for Wycombe, away at Middlesbrough. You're going, aren't you?
I am going, yes. Very much looking forward to it. I was speaking to Gareth earlier on today and asking him whether how likely it was that Wycombe might emulate Spain's victory against Malta. How do you approach a game like this? What do you say to the team when you're looking for a 14-0 win? Have you been practising with Stockdale being a rush goalie like when we were kids this week?
No, I mean, it'd be a freak result. It would shock the world, I think, this one, if we could pull this one off. So, again, we've got to approach it as we always do. We've got to be solid. They're a good side. We've got to be solid at the back. I think that being so open and you could end up on the end of a 10-3 defeat or something ridiculous, and that would be more detrimental. We've already had a 7-2 this season, which wasn't a great feeling. I remember the dressing room after that. So, no, of course, we believe we can score. We've created 23 chances in one game, if I recall rightly, and so there was 23 attempts at goal. The shots have been there, but we've got to think still about the whole package, and we want to be solid. We want to end the season on a high. Will it be the highest high? Let's see. But the run we've been on, Bob, has been phenomenal, and I can't wait to see what we can do against Middlesbrough, who will be a super, super tough team. It's their last game of the season at home. They want to carry on. There are some players who want contracts playing for Neil Warner can play for next season, and we're going to have to make sure that we're really on it. But I haven't mentioned 14-0 yet to the boys. They all know about it. Listen, it's just try and go and score some goals. Let's see how many we can get, and we'll go from there.
Have you ever been involved in anything like that before, in a very high-scoring game?
Yeah, for Finch Hampstead FC when I retired. I think I scored 5 in one game and we won about 11-0, but even that was Sunday League against, I think, the bottom of the league. So even at Sunday League level, we didn't manage to get 14. So we're talking championship here. Let's be realistic. Let's give some respect to everyone else in the league, and let's go up there and try our best to win the game. That for me would be the cherry on the top of what has been a fantastic run lately. I think everyone's accepted what Wycombe's going to be next year. You never know. But, we're really, really proud of the run we've been on, and the competitiveness that we've shown in the 3-4 months has been superb. Just, like I say, 1 point would have made a hell of a difference, wouldn't it? And sometimes that's all it takes. We can look back at refs' decisions, we can look back at some open goals chances we've missed, or not many of them. It's more the refs' decisions, if I'm being honest. But we'll be better equipped next time we come here. And when we do come back here, it will be the right time for Wycombe to be in the Championship. Let's be honest, this time was a real early promotion that nobody expected, and it was brilliant, and it's fantastic, and I'm proud to be the man who is at helm of that. But no, let's see what we can learn, and a win would be fantastic Saturday.
And as you've said throughout the whole season, whatever happens on Saturday, we will finish in our highest position ever in the Football League.
Yeah, we've never been in the top 2 tiers. So yeah, if it's what would it be? It'd be 44th, would it be? It's not a bad position to be finishing in the whole country. I want 43rd or 42nd. That'd be nice, and even 41st. But we'll see what we can do. It'd be an awesome game, and like I said, there's there's some top managers, some top teams in this league, and I want to pay all those respect and thank them all for hosting Wycombe Wanderers and treating us like an equal, because we've deserved that. We got here for a reason, and just let you know that we'll be back one day. Don't worry about that.
It's really nice to hear from. I mean, people say Gareth is obviously inspiring, always very positive, but it really is brilliant to hear, the manager of your club talking like that.
Definitely, and he is really inspiring, and I've said it a few times, I think, this season on the show. I always think you have to look at it in a, would you want to be managed by Gareth Ainsworth? Would you want to go into work every day and have Gareth as your boss? And the answer definitely is completely yes, whereas there are definitely other managers in the Football League and Premier League that you think, oh no, actually I'm not sure that I'd want to go in every day and have you sort of nagging me or whatever. That's definitely not Gareth's style, is it?
And I've heard many press conferences of many, especially Premier League managers, and I can certainly agree with that.
Yes, I mean, and also for a whole variety of reasons, whether they just always seem a bit angry or a bit cross, or whether they just don't come across very well and they sound a bit dull.
Yes, they might just be having a bad day, you don't know. But for Gareth to come down to the more or less the final day of the season and to still be, still going, still fighting,
Indeed.
if you like.
I think, what was it? You're still looking at the table and you don't see a big R next to our name. I think, well, that we would have all taken that at the beginning of the season. Goodness me.
Thank you very much. Well, do join us next week, because I can promise you a very good show, including, as mentioned, a highlights compilation of some of our interviews that we've had with a number of ex-players from different eras. We'll also hear part 2 of our chat with Rob Couhig as well, and find out how Bob got on his trip to Middlesbrough.
And we'll also have a few of the bits that didn't necessarily go quite as they were meant to, including quite a lot of examples of lawnmowers behind Gareth Ainsworth.
It's been a good season for lawnmowers, hasn't it?
It has. Enjoy the lemon wedges.